may recall that when, among other things, the price of oil went up, the price of gas went up to $4 a gallon, there was a lot of belief on Congress and among the American people, and among the oil industry, I should tell you, that one of the reasons for this rapid increase in gas prices had to do with speculation coming from Wall Street. The Commodities Futures Exchange Commission under Bush was very, very weak in taking a look at that. And obviously, we want somebody to be very strong in looking at futures trading and excessive speculation. That would be, among other things, the job that Gensler would have.
Senator Sanders, what about the A.I.G. bonuses? Where do you stand on this? The House passed the 90% tax on them.
My phone is ringing off the hook, Amy, and I think what these bonuses is about is just another example of the incredible arrogance of Wall Street. And we need to understand what these people have done. You're looking at a few dozen huge financial institutions who, through their greed, their recklessness, and I think through their illegal behavior, has impacted the lives of hundreds of millions of people around this world, caused massive job loss. People are losing their savings, they're losing their homes, they're losing their hope. The incredible greed and arrogance that we have seen on Wall Street is unprecedented, certainly since the early Depression and the people who took us into that Depression. So for those people to say, give us a bonus for this fine work that we have done in destroying the American economy is literally beyond comprehension. One of the things that we are fighting for, Amy, is a major and thorough investigation as to how we got into this disaster, who the people are who are responsible for that. We need the Department of Justice to engage in criminal prosecution, because I think some of these people know a lot more than they are telling us. And I think there is probably illegal behavior at the very top of the pyramid on Wall Street. But we need a new Wall Street. We need a Wall Street which is not based on pushing exotic financial instruments that nobody understands, where CEOs are making unbelievable amounts of money. We need a Wall Street which gets back to important banking, which makes sure that the American people in small businesses and businesses in general, which create jobs, can get the money that we need. So we need a revolution, I think, in the way we do financing in this country. And I hope that this disaster on Wall Street will wake the American people up to move us in that direction.
Is the Obama administration, is President Obama just trying to restore the system? I mean, Timothy Geithner yesterday laying out the $1 trillion plan of what many are calling socializing the debt and privatizing the profit.
Again, I am a supporter of Barack Obama. I think, for example, the stimulus package that we worked with him on is the most important piece of legislation that we have passed in many, many decades, not only creating millions of good jobs, but in fact changing the national priorities of this country in terms of energy, in terms of paying attention to our kids, in terms of rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. So I think in many ways what Barack Obama has inherited from the disaster of 8 years of Bush is just an extraordinary set of problems, and I think he's doing a really good job. I think, again, in terms of how you deal with Wall Street and their power and their arrogance, and the fear that many of us have is that these guys are willing to bring down everything in order to protect their positions of power. It ain't easy to deal with. It really is not. But all I would repeat is that I would like to see some new and progressive voices, people who don't come from Wall Street, who look at the world a little bit different, help the president address this very, very difficult crisis.
Senator Sanders, you're the independent senator from Vermont. For years, you called yourself a socialist. You hear the Republicans saying we're not going to socialize this, for example, health care, et cetera. What is socialism, and where do you think it applies today?
Well, I think if people take a good look at what has gone on in Scandinavia and Finland, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, some other European countries, what they will find is that the people in those countries have good quality health care, which is virtually free. Workers have, in some cases, 30, 40 days paid vacation. College education in many of these countries is either free or virtually free. At a time when our country has an 18% rate of childhood poverty, which leads to so many people ending up in jail. In many of these countries, the poverty rate for kids and poverty in general is 3, 4, 5%. Workers are more likely to be members of unions and have more power on their jobs to protect their own interests. People's interest in politics and the political process is greater. So I think what you have seen is governments which are more responsive to the needs of working people and the middle class than certainly is in this country, where, among other things, we have by far the highest rate of inequality in terms of distribution of wealth and income of any major country on earth. So what democratic socialism means to me is having a government which represents the middle class and working people, which guarantees the basic necessities of life for all of our people. Healthcare obviously has got to be a right, not a privilege. We need to make sure that our kids get off to a good start in life, not seeing so many kids living in poverty, childcare being the disaster that it is right now, with so many working families unable to find quality, affordable childcare. In other words, a government which works to protect all of the people, rather than, as we have right now, governments for so many years which have protected the needs of the very wealthy and the powerful.
Do you consider yourself a socialist today?
Democratic socialist, yes.
Are you for single payer?
Yeah, I am.
And you have a major historic development that is happening in Vermont now. The state Senate just voted for gay marriage. It looks like the House is about to do that. It would mean the first time that a state, if it became law, would legalize same-sex marriage without being forced to do so by the courts. That's if the Republican governor signs off on this. Do you support same-sex marriage?
Yes.
And what about the significance of this for Vermont? Do you think the governor will sign off?
I have no idea. I think right now, Amy, here, and I also voted against DOMA, and I think that is an issue that states around this country are going to have to deal with.
The Defense of Marriage Act.
Yeah. Well, right here in Washington now, the issue that people are calling me about from Vermont, and in fact from all over this country, is the disastrous state of our economy. And the need to stop this contraction, to figure out a way we deal with Wall Street, to figure out a way that how we can provide health care to every man, woman, and child. I respect President Obama, by the way, for taking these very difficult issues of health care, education, energy, the national debt, which is going higher and higher, placing them on the table and demanding that we as a country not sweep the stuff under the rug, but we begin to address that.
Senator Sanders, we just have 10 seconds, but I wanted to ask you about Afghanistan. Do you support the surge? Do you support the expansion of war in Afghanistan?
I don't know that I could fully answer that in 10 seconds, but I have concerns about some of what the president is saying.
You have concerns, you said?
Yes.
Well, Senator Sanders, I want to thank you very much for being with us. Senator Bernie Sanders, independent senator of Vermont. And that does it for this broadcast. Democracy Now! Produced by Mike Berkshire, Foto Caduce, Armate, Angeli Comet, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar, Hani Massoud, Ravi Karen, Mike DeFilippo, Miguel Noguera, Peter Curries, our engineers. Our condolences to Jay Salnour's family on the loss of his grandmother. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.